the outturn tonight. I was just getting ready to say that this meeting will be recorded, so all of you should know that by now. I'd like to welcome you. Beth mentioned earlier that if you would like to know who's speaking, if you will take your cursor to the upper right-hand corner of the screen, the word view will come up. If you click on that, you can choose speaker, gallery, or full screen. And the speaker will allow you to see who actually is speaking at the time, which for some people might be really helpful. Beth has also put in the chat, and you'll probably have to scroll a little bit to be able to find it, but she has put a link to the documents so that as things progress this evening, if you'd like to actually take a look at the documents, by simply holding your cursor over the link, it will immediately take you to those documents, and you can then keep the Zoom screen open and continue to participate in the meeting this evening. And at the same time, take a look at the documents if you would find that to be helpful to you. We do have closed captioning available, and if you need that, that should have turned on. Is that correct, Beth? That it just automatically begins. So if you have not already done so, please do add your name and your local league to the chat. Maud just explained how to get there. If you happen to be one of those individuals that has an Apple computer, you may not see the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. You rather will need to move over just to the left-hand side of the little red button that says leave and click on more. And when you click on more, at the very top of that is the word chat. And when you click on that, it opens that window so that you can then add your name, your local league, and then hit your return key, and it will enter the information for us. So to get us started this evening, Maud Norrell, who has kind of been our chairperson and chief herder here, is going to share a brief presentation on the importance of a robust election security position, along with an update on the edits that were made since the January the 22nd meeting. Maud?
Greetings. Again, thank everyone for coming tonight. Thanks to everyone who came to the consensus meeting, who came to all the informational meetings, who gave us comments. We also got comments from stakeholders. We used those to improve the draft position that was shared before the consensus meeting. Colorado has a wonderful election system, but there are comments and questions about election security across the nation. There have been questions about election security in Colorado, and we felt the need to get a position. There are some things at the national level, but they don't go into the level of detail that we felt needed here and nationally, so that we can all advocate for keeping elections secure, for making them more secure, and possibly help our sisters and brothers in leagues across the country advocate to make their elections more secure. So here is, we made a number of small edits, but here are the three main edits that we made as a result of input that we got. One is that election officials should securely retain all paper and electronic records, including the ballot images and the cast vote records. So that was a records retention. We didn't put a time frame on that, left that to local discussions, but we wanted to make sure that we had a position that said these need to be kept. In response to another comment, we added a bullet saying, talking about verifying voter eligibility with best practices that both promote the ease of voting and the security of voting. So remember, the League mission is empowering voters. That's where the ease of voting comes in. And the other half of the mission is defending democracy, and that's the security of voting. And the third major, larger change is to the internet online ballot return. We now started with provide equitable voting access, because we really wanted to talk about the equity of people who have physical disabilities being able to vote. And we added the sentence, when a voter would otherwise be disenfranchised, we should work diligently to provide a voting method which is as secure as possible under the circumstances. And then we said, if allowing less secure voting methods. So not saying that the position doesn't say thou shalt allow less secure voting methods. There's an if there. We changed the word few to rare. And added a warning. A comment that voters should be warned that it's more convenient, it's easier to vote online. Sometimes it is the only way, but it is less secure and less private. So that is the end of the slideshow for the moment.
All right, thank you, Maude. I would just like to remind all of you who are in attendance tonight, some of you may not have been at the meeting on the 22nd. Beth has put in the chat, and she did it again, a link to the documents. And so if it would be helpful to you to be able to actually take a look at those, all you have to do is find Beth Hendrick's name. It's a little ways up from the bottom, and just click directly on that link and it will take you to documents. So at this time, may I have a motion?
I have my hand up, Karen.
I'm sorry, Barb, Madison.
That's all right. I just learned how to put your hand up in a meeting. So very proud of that. Anyway, I move that we adopt the election security position as developed by the LWVCO election security team and distributed to the LWVCO members in the invitation to this meeting.
And I would like to second that motion.
Thank you, Barb. And Barb Madison, would you please share why you are supporting this position, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. First of all, I want to say that I think in the 2020 elections, we all became more aware of the need for greater election security. And as Karen noted, I mean, we have two missions. We have the mission to enable voting and also to defend democracy. And so there are two things that League has to be very aware of there. we take action only when we have a position. And in Colorado, for instance, we have to have positions before we can go to the legislature and support or not support or stay neutral on a bill. And I feel that we don't have enough election security position to do that adequately. Now, I know that nationally, the league nationally has a good foundation in impact on issues, and you can go to that. I went in again today and read it again. It's on page 27, and boy, their website is spruced up. You can do that. But it is a call also for voter verified paper ballots. And I think that that is very, very important. And that can truly ensure a voter's intent. But there are more issues that I feel than are covered there that are really important. I support this position because it specifies that voters should be able to verify their own ballots, such as seeing their paper ballots, and or they can verify that their votes were recorded and tabulated in election centers just as they intended. That's very important for security. This position also offers a very secure chain of custody protocol. This is key for voters to have confidence in election results. This proposed position also calls for limiting less secure voting methods, such as online ballot return, to those few, and as Karen said, now the word is rare, cases where people physically cannot use and return a voter verifiable paper ballot. So I really offer this motion because I feel that it broadens this proposed position. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Barb. Jerry Cummins, who served on the LWVCO board for over a decade as Director of Voter Services, is unable to attend this evening. However, she did send us an email sending her regrets. And she sent the following quotation and gave us permission to share it with the group this evening. Quote, "I have a scheduling conflict on Monday night during the consensus meeting on election security. I wanted you to know that I am wholeheartedly in favor of adopting the statement. So sorry to miss the meeting." Close quote. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for those that would like to make some comments. If you would please raise your hand. Again, if you will go down to the bottom of the screen where it says reactions and click on that, a little window will open up, and at the bottom of that window, it says raise hands. So we will try to keep track of who's raising their hand in the order, and we'll call on you. What we would like to do at this point, however, there are several questions that were entered into the chat. And so I'm going to go through those questions, share them with the group, and then Neil McBurnett, who is our one of our computer experts, has lots of expertise in online voting. Gaithia Weiss and Maud Neural will take turns answering and responding to your questions so that we can get those answered. So it looks like the very first one is from Karen Dills on equitable voting. She says, for those living overseas, sometimes they can't guarantee that their ballot will get there and they need to vote online. So line 7 should maybe say physically use and or return. Would any committee member like to address that?
I simply think that we definitely, that's a form of not physically being able to get it back. If you're on the space station or a submarine or isolated, you're not physically able to get it back. And that includes any form of not mailing it without, I mean, we want to make it clear that we're really talking about very limited situations and not something that somebody, well, I can't return it because it's snowing today and I didn't make it down the street a block to my mailbox kind of situation. So we definitely think that the concerns of that question are addressed by the word physically returned.
Right. Robert Howard is asking, does less secure imply that votes could be hacked and altered? Neil, would you respond to that question?
Yeah, I put a note in the chat, and this is a great question. This is really why we're putting all this together. And I would just say that, as a computer guy, I'm suspicious of nearly anything, and we've seen over centuries, really, there are various ways to attack various voting systems, and so that's why we're really looking to have relatively general but clear language on the best practices we have, the most tried and true as a voter verifiable paper ballot. But if we miss somebody's vote because they couldn't, they would otherwise be disenfranchised. If we really didn't meet them where they were, that's another form of insecurity. So what we're really trying to say is that we look at the situation and we try to balance those two in a way that this position is not a law. It's not a practice. It's going to be used by league advocates in a particular context of a piece of legislation or something. And I trust that league advocates will use it and research the latest and greatest and give good advice.
Thanks, Neil. Carla and Frank Bennett are asking about number 6, verifying voter eligibility is unclear to them. They think that there could be serious differences of opinion of what best practices are. We would like to address that.
I'll just note that, again, that's actually a matter that we've been working on improving in Colorado, and people in different parts of the country are working on. We actually have the head of our clerks association is working at a national level to come up with best practices. I'm actually working with people in other clerks in Colorado to figure out better ways to audit signatures and things like that. So we didn't want to get too specific. And again, we trust that league advocates will follow this as we move along and really dig into the principles that we're trying to hold up, which is what we really tried to get in that particular statement.
Thanks, Neil. Ruthie Rockwell makes the statement that while I sympathize with the voting access difficulties of certain disabled voters and military personnel on submarines, etc., I don't feel that any online voting should be authorized. Online voting is too insecure. Neil?
Again, we absolutely are not calling for online voting. It says if it's allowed. There are states, about half of the states already allow some form of internet or fax or email. All of those are forms of online voting. And so those are exactly the places where what we want to have is language that says, gosh, this is really a serious problem. We have innumerable quotes and background material statements into the issues, but we also know that there are some people who would otherwise be disenfranchised, and we have organizations as savvy and clear about security as the FBI and CISA and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, who frame it the same way. They say that if someone would be disenfranchised, then you want to look at your options, and those options will change over time. We absolutely, and there are other organizations that take a very, very hard line, and we understand that. This is what we feel best meets the principles of the league. So, but we're interested in all this input. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, again, this is something that was much debated, and we did discuss with members of the disability, representatives of the disability community. And I think it gets to the mission of the league, which is twofold, and it's a balancing act between empowering voters and defending democracy. And it's both of those things that we're trying to accomplish, and we're trying to thread that line. And I will put in the chat a statement from Michael Fernandez, who is the Director of Science and Policy at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which again sort of reiterates that balancing act. And I'll just put it there for anybody. It's also in the background information on our website.
I'm going to call on Susan's iPad. Susan, I don't know whether you put your question in the chat, but if you would like to share with us now, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
My comments really are about supporting this, being part of this consensus to support the stands that you are taking. I have a little bit of prior experience. I was did the training and was a poll watcher during the 2020 election. And I was based quite a bit of the time at the Central Denver Election Divisions building, where a lot of the magic takes place that is the gold standard for Colorado. And so I was really able to observe, watch and ask questions, as long as I wasn't interfering with anybody's work, about how they did things, why they did things, the basis for the ways in which they verified signatures or unfolded the ballots, or I mean, any minutia I was allowed access to. And on the 4 or 5 times I was there for hours, it really gave me a much stronger sense of the meat and potatoes of what our election services people do in Colorado, and an appreciation for that. And I would, at our next election, I mean, you can go down and observe through windows. You can sign up through a party to become a poll watcher. And subsequent to that, because of that experience, I also volunteered to be part of League of Women Voters, the group that's writing the white paper on our, quote, gold standard voting and election services here in Colorado that we will present at national. For me, 2 very important things, having just watched what's happened in this country over the past 4 or 5 years, is that we need to find ways to reinstitute trust in our election system. And that has been undermined by misinformation, by disinformation, by charges of fraud. All of us know all of that. But I think League of Women Voters can help reestablish trust by defining where our positions are, what we are taking positions on in terms of election security and voter access to make their voices heard. The other thing is that positions enable us. If we don't state what our position is in League, my understanding is, then we struggle really when a bill comes up or when there is legislation that we either really strongly support or oppose, or there's some stance taken. We base our stand and whether we support something or whether we don't on really having delved into and researched very carefully what our position is before we take a position. So I think this strengthens League to have better clarification of positions, at least here in Colorado, and that other state leagues can follow that lead by perhaps doing a similar process of consensus inside their own states. This can provide a model, I think, just as our general election standards in Colorado provide a model for other states in the country.
Thanks very much, Susan. Joe Fetter. You'll need to unmute, Joe.
No, I lowered my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. There is a comment from B. Haxby. that says, I agree with the voter security suggestions, but in all honesty, without equal stress on ease of voter access rather than security alone will not provide free and fair elections in which everyone who is eligible can vote and their vote will be fairly counted. I hope we are just as clear on ease of access.
And that is in other parts of the issues for action. I mean, that's in the mission statement, empowering voters. So that is woven into the fabric of League and the positions already. Where we had holes was on the security side. Absolutely, we are for ease of voting. But that, fortunately, that's already there.
What I put in the chat was there's always room for future League work. And so I'm happy to have people join us in moving forward in the future on all kinds of issues that the League could be greater involved in. This, we're trying to keep focused to the election security issue.
Nancy Ball commented that she didn't see any reference to the safety of election workers, and she can see the complications, but it's a problem across the country. Ann Sutton, would you unmute?
Yes, thank you. My name is Ann Sutton, and I'm on the board of League of Women Voters of Adams County. And in our discussions that we held, we were particularly concerned about the ability of voters to verify their voted ballot before submission. And we sought advice from our Deputy County Clerk for Elections to find out exactly how Adams County was addressing this. Adams County no longer uses voting machines that produced and retained the only paper record along with the memory card. Instead, on the new machines, the voter makes their choices on a touch screen and the filled-in ballot is printed for review and confirmation. Then the voter places it in the ballot box. And we are very comfortable with this now more secure system that fulfills requirement number 8 about voter verifiability. Further, these cast paper ballots, we're assured, are secured by the county clerk and can be used for risk limiting audits and recounts as needed. So this fulfills requirement number 7 about auditability. Thanks so much to the election security team that has worked so hard on this position. We're very pleased with what you've come up with.
Thanks very much. Celeste Landry.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad that the Colorado League has studied the issue of election integrity and come up with this position. Our state and national leagues really need good positions on election integrity so that the league can be relevant. I've been involved with elections as a league member for over a decade. I currently serve as the leader of the voting methods team in Boulder County. I've also testified to the title board, the Secretary of State's office on election rule changes, and as a league lobbyist to the legislature. I've helped craft election legislation, and I'm a member of the State Audit Working Group. It's a national group working for election security and particularly good election audits. In 2020, I was one of the people working on the league's national concurrence on voter representation / electoral systems. And we in Colorado requested and got removal of an untenable bullet point in the original language. We then supported the revised concurrence language, which passed. And a strength of the league is that we have a good back and forth discussion about positions prior to adoption, and this results in better positions. I'm appreciating this conversation and the conversation that we had a week or so ago. I'm particularly proud that the proposed election security position considers the entire election process, from voter registration and eligibility to equitable and private access for voters to election-based, evidence-based election audits. And I strongly urge all league members to support this improved and well-vetted position. I want to thank Gaithia and Neil in particular for initially taking the charge on this, and to the rest of the team for their work in crafting such a good position. I applaud your work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Celeste. From Kathy, is there someone who could clarify to me the intention of requesting the election software be open source? Doesn't that increase the risk of hacking, or does it instead increase the access to reviews to prevent hacking? Maud?
I'm going to defer to Neil on that one, but since you called on me, I'd like to point out, somebody talked about the security of election workers, which of course we do care about, since many of us are election workers or poll watchers, but the National Issues on Action has a general violence prevention position, which those of us who work in action know that that can be used in many ways, including saying prevent violence against election workers. So, and then I'll turn it to Neil, who's really the one who knows how to answer the other question.
Thanks, Maud.
I'll just say, Kathy, that is really a great question, and exactly the way that we frame it in the security world. I think the main point that we take it from in this case is that we can't assume, in fact, we should assume that all this source code is already in the hands of any well-sourced adversary, as they say. You know, if there are nation states that wanted to hack our elections, it's very easy for them with their resources to get a hold of the source code. So we can't assume that the bad guys don't have it. We better give it to the good guys, because the good guys honestly are going to find a whole lot more ways to make it more secure than the companies themselves. We have a lot of evidence that the companies, they're honestly small companies. They have a lot of sway in terms of democracy, but it's a very small market. They're not as well funded as you'd want for critical infrastructure. So I think making it open source, making it disclosed is a good thing. And I do want to be very clear that we're not calling for it to be open source. Open source is something that would allow anyone else to use it. We're calling for it to be disclosed, which means you can retain a copyright, you can prevent your competitors from using it. You just have to acknowledge that it is critical enough that we should give, again, our security professionals the opportunity to look at it. And that's the same position that the US military takes with its code. They assume that the enemy has access to it and they try to make it secure. So there are open source voting systems. There are disclosed source voting systems already. San Francisco is trying to buy one. So we feel that transparency really in all things, in transparency around the audits, transparency around the ballots, and transparency around the systems is important. We don't want a world in which black boxes are running our civic life, in which proprietary algorithms determine who wins.
Thanks, Neil. Barbara Dungy.
So I'm Barbara Dungy. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Arapahoe and Douglas counties. I'm glad I'm getting a little chance to say something here, because I've worked in IT for actually decades. And, you know, part of my job has been to look at processes, to look at security, you know, as I've been doing my work. And then in addition, I've also been following for the last 20 years or so, you know, there have always been discussions and questions centered around elections for the last 20 years. And, you know, do we need a paper trail? Are they secure? Are they connected to the internet? Those sorts of things. And I just want to say how proud I am that League has come up with this, has done this research and written this paper, because I really feel that, first of all, I think we have unprecedented threats to our democracy, with people questioning the reliability of our democratic processes. You know, there's a lot of disinformation. We've got I don't know if they're unexpected, but certainly devastating consequences of social media and how we communicate with each other. And I just want to say that, I've looked at this from both my experience in IT and also as a very interested person who cares about our democracy. And I think this is a very good document. It seems to cover, from what I can see, the things that we needed to cover. As we've said, there's that balancing act to be sure that we can empower voters and engage them and involve them, and yet keep our elections secure. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Colorado. I want to thank all the people on the election security committee. And I'm just so glad we're doing this because we've risen to the occasion and it is really needed. Well done.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Barbara. Sandra Vandehey, Jeffco. You'll need to unmute, please. Sandra?
I have,
Can you, there you go.
yeah, I don't have a comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you had your hand up.
No, that was from, I'm sorry, from before.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks. Sandy Schuster says that she is still skeptical about online voting, but she thinks that the committee has done a great job of changing the wording to address it. And again, I would reiterate that it's really has been a fine balance between empowering voters and defending democracy, which also means making sure that our elections are safe. I don't see any other hands at this point. I don't want to miss anybody. If there's somebody that would like to make a comment that has not been recognized, unmute yourself and speak up.
There's one comment from Shirley Mrochek, I'm probably garbling it, sorry, about overseas, civilian overseas voters. And again, we talk about people who cannot physically use and return a paper ballot. So some people who are overseas civilians can do that. Some may have great difficulty doing that. And again, in those rare cases, we say they should be allowed to return their ballot over the internet. But a lot of people live overseas where they get paper mail and can receive something, send something back, or receive their ballot over the internet and then mail it back, print it out and mail it back. But good point, yes.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. All right, I think that we are at this point ready for the vote. So Maud, would you please display the next slide so that we can all see?
Yes, I just have to find it, sorry. A few tabs up.
And while Modest is looking for the slide, the next step will be, once I have read the motion, Beth Hendricks is going to display a poll. For those of you that maybe have not had the opportunity to participate in a Zoom poll, it's very easy. A little box will open up on your screen, and then you will be asked to place a yes or a no vote, and simply hit return. And once all of the votes are cast, we'll give everybody plenty of time to cast their vote. And once all of the votes have been cast, then Beth will share the results of that poll. So the motion that was made by Barb Madison and seconded by Barb Winery is adopt the election security position as distributed to the LWVCO members in the invitation to this meeting. Beth, would you display the poll, please? And tell me when it's displayed, because I'm not sure I'll be able to see it. There it is. All right. Is there anybody that has not yet had a chance to vote? It looks like
Okay, we're at 94%.
well, I am showing that there were 70 votes, yes. 70 votes cast and 70 votes yes. That's what's showing on my screen, Beth. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Well, I would say, Colorado League members, that you have unanimously voted to approve this position. I cannot tell you how thankful this committee is that you've given us such overwhelming support. I've kind of been on the sidelines, but I can tell you that this committee has put in many hours, has had many lively discussions, and they worked very hard to come up with a position that you obviously agree was well crafted, and that now we can share with other LWVCO members, the Legislative Action Committee, and this position now may be used for supporting legislation and doing other important work that the league does. Does anybody have a comment that they would like to add, including the committee?
I'd just like to say that Karen Sheik was not on the sidelines. She was highly involved. And Karen, you're being very modest. You were very involved. Your time and thoughtfulness was instrumental.
Well, thanks, Beth. I appreciate that. And now, guys, on to national.
Yes. And there, I would say a lot of you probably know people in other leagues, and we will be happy to have support and help in being sure that we can get our message out to the rest of the country. Because again, we're pretty proud of ourselves here in Colorado for having a very good election system, and we would like to see other states do as well also and help other leagues get to that point. So anything that you can contribute would be welcome.
Yeah, and it's easy to reach us. If you know one of the team members, super, send it directly to us or send something to info@lwvcolorado.org. That will get to us as well. So thank you, everybody, and thank you to a really amazing team, including Beth's contributions, which is more than just putting up a Zoom poll. She's had quite a few words of wisdom as well. So
I want to thank also everybody who joined the discussion tonight and participated tonight, because that's what makes league so critically important in this country. It's grassroots. It's wonderful input.
yeah, and good, I mean, good input from the informational meetings, the consensus, the comments, and good questions tonight also. I mean, just lots of good brain power there. So thank you, everybody.
Can I ask the committee, please, all the committee members to please, and Beth Hendricks as well, to please stay on for just a few moments?
It looks like Barb Dungy has one last thing to say.
Barb.
So on to the National Convention, correct?
Yes.
Would you please explain the process? Do you need local leagues to recommend that this be added to the agenda? Because there are advantages. And can we recommend our own state's position? How does this work?
Tony, I'm gonna turn that over to you, Tony Larson. And you may need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I did.
There you go.
Not always positive about the unmuting. So what will happen is at this point, the League Board of Colorado will vote to send this statement off to the National League for concurrence. And we will also ask for a caucus at the National Convention, which is in Denver. And we will also have probably do across the nation an explanation of what we did and what we think are the really good principles of the statement. So you will be asked, and other leagues will be asked to endorse. And so you can wait until that happens to put your name to it. Hopefully, I think that won't be too far in the future, because we do have to get our program material, and concurrence comes in under position program to national, so we know what we want.
So, Tony, as a follow-up, isn't there like a March 1st deadline?
Yes, that's why we're meeting tonight and not some more convenient time.
You got it. You got it right. We also would
Great.
like to say that this all started with Oregon, and they had put together a paper that had 4 different kinds of issues in it, like disinformation and that misinformation. So we decided, though, we really needed to stick to the cybersecurity of voting. And that's what we have done, and with the support of the people from Oregon. And so we've been working very collaboratively with them as well. And I think we've mentioned that we have worked with the disability community as well. So, I mean, I think we've done a good job in how to get this all together and to include a lot of people. And yes, we will meet the deadline of March 1st and send in the concurrence statement. And then we can do these other things as well.
Thanks, Tony. And thanks for asking that question, Barb. That was really helpful.
Barb Madison?
Yeah, I believe, will you also be going to across the country basically to lobby other states?
Yes.
So that sets up a hopefully positive amount of support convention?
Yeah, I don't know if you tuned into the behavioral health program that was a couple days ago, but that went out to, it was from New York. It was the New York League predominantly. And that went out, there was an invitation that anybody in the country could join that presentation. So that's one thing we'll do. And yes, we will contact local leagues, probably state leagues, maybe local leagues, and encourage them to endorse this proposal.
Thank God for Zoom.
Yeah, sure.
It'd be more fun if we got the league to fly us to all the other states.
Hey, that's an idea, Gaith. Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna do this. If you will remember, we had 100% of the legislature supporting the districting proposals. So, and we were very much involved in that, and we can do it again.
Yes, you bet.
Sharon Davis?
Yes, Sharon.
Hi, everybody. I added my humble thanks to everybody who worked on this in the chat, but in terms of rolling this out nationally, I'm wondering if there's certain states maybe we should target first who have weak enforcement of voting security and/or are on the slide downward on access, and prioritize those states first, because I think maybe that's more punch in the national convention. And I'd just like to hear from folks what they think about that.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and we will certainly think about that. It's probably just as easy to blanket the country, and I think every other state is on the way down, so. Neil, Neil's shaking his head, no.
No, I think actually it's a wonderful point and one of our motivations. I think the fact that, for example, Georgia, while honestly every state has room to grow, including Colorado, but Georgia had a lot of room to grow a couple of years ago. And if they hadn't moved to paper ballots, I tremble at the thought of what it would have been like a year ago. So I think we're getting the message out that that confidence in election results comes from transparency and comes from good practices like what we've done. And honestly, Colorado still has things I wish we'd improve. So, but it's a really good point to be thinking about how this works in different states and work with them to make a really good case to national.
Yeah, I think what we really are going to need is to find in all of the states the good, dedicated league people who can help us and that we can support in their efforts in their states to find out, some more about what their needs are too, and what parts of this position they see as being the useful thing to take to their state legislatures and stuff like that. So that's where, and again, that's not necessarily going to be the person that we contact at info@xyzstate.com. And so anything that you as an individual know of league members in other states that we can incite to be the person to go to their state league and say, yes, yes, we want you to support this, that would be just extremely helpful.
All right, Barbara Dunshee, did you have another question?
Just a comment or a request. So many of us are now on league committees that are comprised of people from all over the United States. Many of them are leaders of their leagues in their areas. If we could, I would appreciate it if someone could help me with maybe some talking points, and I would like to reach out. I have relationships with some of these people, and I think it would be really nice to say personally, would you please support this? But I really would like a little help with maybe a little bit of a talking point start.
Barbara, thank you so much. It's people like you that come out of the woodwork that just make me think, wow, what a great organization. And I think you're exactly right. What we have is a background document, which you might have seen in the pointed to from the main League of Women Voters Colorado page about the election security. So that goes into a lot of the quotes and things that we use. There's also an introduction. There's about 5 or 6 documents there. And we try to frame why it's important and some of the background material. And I hope that we actually get a chance to flesh that out as we get questions from other states, because honestly, what you learn anytime you're dealing with elections is that you think you know how they work, and then you realize that there's another state where they call them parishes, they don't call them precincts, or it's just the US is famous for being so 7,000, 9,000 different jurisdictions with different approaches. So we're going to learn stuff, and I hope that we try to put some context behind the document and, exactly as you say, come up with good talking points, good rationales, and ways to explain it and maybe someday improve it, or who knows what, because we all have a lot to learn.
And I'd be happy to work with anybody on, because it may be situational, which point resonates with which person in which state might be dependent on what their situation is. So I'd be happy. My email I put in the chat earlier is just my first name, since it's an unusual first name, @gmail.com. Barb, you don't get to do that, sorry. But I'd be happy to help devise or point you towards things in the background that you think might be useful.
Yeah, and my email is maudlwv@gmail.com. Maud is a 4-letter word. And our election documents are, if you go to the main state league website and scroll down to election security, click on documents, all of our docs are linked from there. So they're pretty easy to get hold of.
and the why we need a position, that would have useful information, and then the background has more specifics.
Yeah, and the introduction doc as well.
Let me make a suggestion. If there are any participants in this evening's meeting that have contacts and with league members in other states, if you will get in contact with either Gathia or Maud, or if you can't copy their email addresses quickly enough or misplace them, you can certainly get in contact with Beth. Everybody knows how to get in touch with her. And just let us know that you are interested in participating in this outreach. And what we can do then is begin to compile a list of folks that might be willing to help us in this effort to get the word out to the states, because this is going to be a monumental effort. And the more, as Maud would say, the more worker bees we have, the better off we'll be. So please take a minute to do that after the meeting tonight, so that we can start gathering that. And I can assure you, if you're interested, somebody will be in touch.
I think that's a great point. And I think, at this point, it looks like, gosh, it's all clear and obvious and so on. But again, the US is a very diverse place, and the situation varies everywhere. And the more people that we can get with your diverse backgrounds and contacts and insights, the better we'll be able to use this opportunity. I really see this as an enormous opportunity for the league to make a difference by getting some clear-headed ideas out there for how to improve security.
All right. Well, we actually got through our meeting from the time we actually started.
Karen?
Yes.
Sorry, Sharon has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon. Yes.
You don't need to apologize. It's a lot of people to manage. The one question I had after this, and perhaps I missed it, and I apologize if I did. Are there going to be a similar type of Zoom calls, perhaps, that are shared with other state organizations so that they can log in? Okay, I apologize. I'm seeing nodding heads. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions real quickly?
And maybe this is one for Beth Hendricks, or some people on the line saying they had difficulty accessing video recordings, and perhaps you could send that out in an email to everybody so that's clear.
I put the link to our YouTube channel in the chat box. It's also on the homepage of our website. It's a little red circle icon. So it's always available easily for y'all.
Could you quickly screen share to show people exactly where that is?
Sure.
Because I think sometimes we go online and we look for it and it's right in front of you and you can't find it.
So these icons here are all of our social media. This red one is YouTube. Just click that and it takes you to our YouTube channel, which has hundreds of videos at this point. I'd click it right now, but it will just turn on an automatic video of Jeanette Hillary talking about when she joined the league. So I'm not going to do that.
Well, we will probably also try to find ways to update the page that links to the position and the other background documents to also include the videos and so on YouTube. So ideas for what it is that would help us, get across the points that you think are helpful, are very helpful to us.
All right, I see no other hands at this point, so I am going to close the meeting this evening. Again, thanks to everybody for your participation and your wonderful input. And now we'll move forward with this new position.
And by the way, if folks want to save the chat, this is your last chance.
So maybe we explain how to do that. In the bottom of chat, there's like 3 dots on the right-hand side. Then you can, if you click on those, it says save chat, and then you will get the whole list, which then will give you everybody's contact information if you have any reason to want that.
It's in the lower right-hand corner of the chat box. You'll see what looks like a piece of paper that's been dog-eared, a little happy face, and then the 3 dots that Gaithia was mentioning. And when you click on those 3 dots, a window opens up that says save chat.
I'm not sure that that's what happens with the Apple. Is that what?
Okay, Apple people, what do you do?
Karen has an Apple. Don't you have a Mac, Karen?
I do, and when I click on it and it says save chat, then it says click on Finder. And the Finder is a little icon in the lower left-hand corner of your Apple screen.
And then you can find the chat in your documents under a file. Of
I've got chat. I can open chat.
Okay.
I get to the bottom of it, and there's no message like you just stated. But anyhow, we don't need to deal with that right now. I'll just.
We'll send it to you. Somebody will send it to you. But if you've saved it, I just opened my Finder, and then I get a recent screen, and it.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you very
And
much.
Jeanette, were you trying to say something?
No, I was just commenting, it does save it to your documents.
Yeah.
You can, and the downloads that you can access through your Finder.
And Barbara?
I've tested this on both a Microsoft Windows machine and Apple, and it goes into your documents, Zoom directories. So, but recents is a great way to find it too. And tablets, it's tablets, I think, that are really different.
Barb Winnery, did you have a question?
Nope, I was just gonna say downloads, but everybody's covered it all. And good night.
Okay. All righty. Well, good night.
Thank you, everybody.
And
Thank you.
Team, please stay on. And including Beth, you're tarred.
Only if you're fast, because I'm hungry.
Me too.
Does anybody know if the national convention is going to be in person or hybrid or
Hybrid.
only online? Hybrid, it will be. Okay.
Yes, it's set. They've got a contract at the Sheraton on the 16th Street Mall.
Okay.
And our closed captioner, I think is still here. Can that person, do we need, thank you.
Not needed anymore. Thank you so much.
And then can I ask a question about the Oregon position?
Yeah.
So are they now going to support our position?